Welcome to the third session in S&I's three-part series on negotiations. So, today I want to focus on probing. If you've prepared, as we talked about in the second session, PAID, that four-part acronym, today we're going to talk about a new acronym. What? That's right, WHAT. Now, what does this acronym mean? The W, perhaps the most important aspect, is asking questions first that are broad, such as, what's important to you? Now, most people's next step, when they ask what's important to you, you hear a response from the other party, and you immediately, like a machine gun, gunning it down, attack whatever is said. What's important to you? Price. Let me tell you about our price and why it's so competitive. But what happens then is the rest of the conversation will be on price. Now, first of all, is it 100% sure that the first thing that the other party said is the most important? Not always. And secondly, is it worthwhile to have an entire conversation on that? So what could you do instead? Well, what's important to you? Price. Great. Thank you. What else is important to you? What else? What else? Try to get all the aspects on the negotiation table. That'll help you understand what's truly important to them. Now, the next step before you let that go is, if I understood correctly, X, Y, and Z are important to you. Of those, which is most important and why? Now what you've done is not only created a list of all the interests of the other party, but you also understand their priorities for each. And so what you want to do now is focus on those in that order in order to maximize the way you negotiate. Now, the H is hypothetically. In negotiations, we often get stuck in places where there's a deadlock and we're having trouble moving. Hypotheticals are a great way to get more information without any commitment for the other party. For example, if they say, unfortunately, we just don't have it in the budget for your product or service. A very common response for just about any entrepreneur or salesperson. Well, perhaps the best way to respond to that is, okay, great, I understand. So, hypothetically speaking, if you had money in the budget, is this something that you would recommend to your team? And what you're doing here is you're removing the piece of a budget and you're trying to get a sense of how for this idea, product or service, that person is. From there, if the answer is yes, great, let's find out how you can create budget or borrow from other budgets. If the answer is no, then you've got some digging in to do to understand, because you obviously didn't sell the person on your idea that you're trying to negotiate. Then the next is A, answer questions with questions. Now, what do we mean by this? Well, every now and then you're going to get a question out of left field that says, can you tell me more about this? And of course, you must answer the question we're not teaching you to avoid. But if you can ask them a question first, or, that's interesting you ask it. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you ask? Then they answer it, and then you respond. Now, why is that important? If it's something that is asked about that hasn't been talked about before, you should have some context before you answer. You might get yourself in trouble if you don't have any context whatsoever. And then finally, the T is for tell me more, or really any probing encourager. So tell me more is all about using phrases that will get the other side talking more. People like to talk, and information is power, and really listening to what they say is the best way to develop a relationship. So if you follow this model, WHAT for your probing, you will surely be a more effective negotiator. Thank you for taking part in this three-part series, and I hope you're able to use all the information we covered successfully.